going to make a cake of a piñata so I can smash it. Ooh, I want to see just how close to the real thing I can get, so I'm gonna try to hang it from a tree. The only problem is real piñatas are made of paper, so they're light, and cake is really heavy. I'm worried that my cake piñata might fall as I try to hang it. Am I gonna be able to pull this off?
We're about to find out!
My name is Natalie Sideserf, and I make cakes that don't look like cakes. And today, I'm going to make a cake of a piñata. Piñatas come in all different shapes, and they usually complement a party's theme. What would you say is Sideserf Cake Studio's theme? Cake. I'm gonna make this piñata cake in the shape of a cake.
It's a cake of a cake.
I'm thinking a 2-tiered cake. So I have 2 cake boards here. One is a 14-inch and the other is a 10-inch. Now both of these cake boards are kind of flimsy. And if I'm going to successfully hang this cake, I need them to be stronger. I went to a bunch of different stores and I found something that I think is gonna work. I found this 12-inch round wooden disc and this 9-inch round wooden clock face. Look. I went to like 4 different stores. This was the best I could find. Both wooden circles are slightly smaller than the cake boards, but I still think this will do the trick. I'm measuring the center of the circle, and now it's time to bust out the drill. I don't know if you've ever held a 2-tiered cake this size, but it's gonna be heavy. Way heavier than a real piñata. So if I wanna hang this cake without it completely collapsing, I need this structure that I'm building to be really, really heavy duty. So I'm placing a threaded metal rod through the wooden cake board. This threaded rod is super strong, so it should be strong enough to hold up my cake, my hanging cake. Okay, so the bottom of this structure feels sturdy, so now I can place the cake board over the wood. Decided to hang this cake, I thought to myself, you know what? Let's just hang it in the studio. I've got this pretty strong C-stand. I can just hang the cake from that. Actually, I'm not sure that it's gonna be strong enough. And look, there's like not enough room for the cake. I want it to move a little. I'm just not sure that that's gonna work. I just feel like the studio is just like not the ideal space. You know, why am I trying to fight myself on this? We're hanging it outside. I am going to hang a cake from a tree today. I've never done that. This is gonna be so fun. All right, so let's move on to the paper. Piñatas are papier-mâché sculptures covered in colorful tissue paper. I'm using cake in place of a papier-mâché sculpture, but what edible material should I use to replace tissue paper? There's a lot of different types of edible paper out there, but I think wafer paper is the closest thing to tissue paper that I'm gonna get. So here I've got some wafer paper, and I'm gonna cut it into strips, then snip along the edges to create fringe. These little stork scissors that are gonna be perfect for this.
Let's get to snipping.
Now I love this. This is looking good.
But
there is a problem. I only have white wafer paper. I searched for colored wafer paper online and in specialty stores. I can't find any. I can only find white. So we gotta figure something out because piñatas are colorful. I don't wanna make an all white piñata cake. I'm not getting married again. I'm gonna try to brush some food color onto the wafer paper. All right, it's looking pretty good. Yellow's done, let's do another color. What color? Let's do pink. All right, the paper's looking good. I'm just gonna set it aside to dry.
A few minutes later.
The paper's dry, and it looks, well, it's pretty rippled, and the color's not very even. The color is not even. I wanted the color to be like nice and solid, like real tissue paper. The yellow doesn't look horrible, but it doesn't look great. Okay, let's look at the pink. Yeah, that looks horrible. The color dried all like splotchy. It's super uneven. I don't know what's going on. I hate it. Look, I'm gonna try something that I've never done. I have a sugar printer that prints with edible ink onto edible paper. I've used it to print onto thick edible paper, but I've always been afraid to try it with wafer paper because it's so thin. I'm nervous it's gonna like jam in there, but I'm gonna try it today because that pink paper looked horrible. All right, guys.
please don't jam.
It didn't jam, and it looks so much better than I thought it was gonna. It's beautiful, it's perfect, it's exactly exactly what I need. And look at all these colors. I was worried there for a minute. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I'm so glad the printer worked. I've got all these colored wafer paper sheets. I've cut quite a few of them, but I'm not really sure what my design's gonna be yet. So before I figure all that out, let's stack the cake. My cake board's got a little wobble to it. It's gonna be real hard to stack a cake on a wobbly board. So I cut some foam board into a circle and I'm placing that on the bottom. There we go, now it's like flat. I'm wrapping the metal in some plastic wrap. Gotta get it nice and food safe. And now comes the cake. Hanging a cake is one of the most difficult things you can do with a cake. Cake is heavy. It's made of butter and sugar. It's super slippery. It does not want to be hung, but we're gonna hang it anyway, because a piñata cake is not a realistic piñata cake unless it's hanging. I don't even know what to expect. What do you think's gonna happen? Like, if this thing falls apart, is it just gonna like kind of collapse and drop to the ground? Or are like pieces and chunks just gonna start falling off? Like, once a cake starts leaning, it's done for. So the bottom tier is covered in white buttercream, but I don't want to keep it white. I want it to be covered. So I'm gonna cover the whole thing in a layer of wafer paper. What color should I do? Yellow, pink, blue, green? Let's do pink. I'm covering the cake in sheets of pink wafer paper. This does not have to look pretty, it's just to cover the entire cake so none of the buttercream shows. I'll be decorating the outside of it to look nice later. Now I could just stack the second cake tier on top of the bottom tier, but I wanna be extra safe. Cause I just think once that piñata cake starts swaying, I'm nervous that the cake's gonna fall over. So I'm adding a second cake board. Remember the clock from earlier? Doing it this way means that the weight of the bottom cake tier goes onto that bottom cake board, and the weight of the second cake tier goes onto that second cake board. So each cake board is holding its own weight, rather than all the cake's weight on one cake board. Now I'm stacking 10-inch round layers of cake. So we've got our 10-inch round cake on top of our 14-inch round cake. It's a lot of cake. I'm going to cover this cake tier in a layer of wafer paper, just like I did with the pink one. But what color should I make it? Okay, let's make this one yellow. Now this is where things get tricky. This is where I need to figure out the hanging element of this cake. What can I attach to the top of this rod that will be strong enough to tie rope around and hang from a tree? So I went to a home improvement store and I dug around and I found this. I believe it's called an eye bolt. Now, how do I attach the eye bolt to the threaded rod? I dug around at the store again and I found this. So I just screwed it on one end and then I screw it onto the other end. Aha! It looks great. It totally works. Now I have a pole and a loop. Perfect for hanging. We have another problem. Look how long this pole is. I only wanted the little loop at the top to show. It's gonna look goofy. Wait a minute. How long is this? Approximately 4 to 5 inches? I have an idea. This looks to be like enough space to add an additional cake tier. Our 2-tiered piñata cake is now gonna be a 3-tiered piñata cake. Oh, it's gonna look so much better with another tier.
Let's go.
I'm putting down a third cake board and I'm screwing everything on. Ooh. Oh, that is heavy. I'll tell you what, this feels very secure. I really think that this metal loop is gonna hold up the weight. Now, will the cake kind of like shift or fall off in chunks, that whole thing? I don't know. I make one of my larger cakes when I plan on hanging it from a tree. Now, what color should we make the top tier? Let's go blue. All right, now I just gotta move the cake off the table. 3 cake tiers is huge. This thing is really big now. It is so heavy, I can barely move it, let alone hang it. Now that I've figured out how I'm gonna hang the cake, is there anything else I can add to make this piñata cake feel even more like a piñata? Do you wear clothes or know someone who does? Well, get yourself some more by heading over to sideserfcakes.com. That's where you can get some Sideserf Cake Studio clothes, like this shirt of Paige, the cake notebook. I just got this apron in.
And I love it.
I also got a shirt of Bob the Boba, Larry the Onion, and all designs come in kid and adult sizes. But not just t-shirts, there's all kinds of stuff. I'll put a link below so you don't get lost on your way to the store. And now back to the cake. How can I make this piñata cake even more realistic? I could cut the cake with a knife, or I could hit it with a stick. I'm gonna hit it with a stick blindfolded, just like a real piñata. And I just so happen to have googly eyes, so the fringe looks like eyelashes. Okay, I think that's everything. I'm gonna hang the cake, I'm gonna hit it with a stick, blindfolded. Am I missing something?
Candy!
Can I fill this cake with candy? You know what's better than using a stick to smash a cake? Using a stick to smash a cake full of
Candy!
We've got all my favorites here. Have you ever had Haichu? It's very good. And don't give me a hard time about that Almond Joy. I love Almond Joy. You know what? Let's throw Takis in there. All right, I've got my treats. Let's try to shove them in this cake. I feel like I would have had an easier time doing this if I did it earlier. I'm gonna find a way. So I'm just cutting a hole here, keeping it clean. I gotta shovel that cake out of there. I'm making this up as I go, as usual. Let's start with the little guys. Get them in there, shove them in. All right, that hole is full of candy, so I just gotta cover it up. I've got a bunch of little candies in the bottom pink tier, but I want every tier to have candy in it. I can't believe I almost made this cake without adding candy. I want this to be a true piñata experience. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cavities full of candy. Now let's decorate the cake. Now I have to figure out the paper design. Who better to help me out than Paige the notebook? Paige is literally paper, or is she cake? Either way, Paige is gonna help us out. You can get a Paige notebook at sideserfcakes.com. All right, let's sketch out our cake. The top tier is blue, the middle tier is yellow, and the bottom tier is pink. What's a common decoration on a real tier cake? Sometimes you see the drizzle along the top, like a drip cake. We should add drips. I'm gonna make the drips white. I cut all that wafer paper earlier, so now I just have to add it to the cake. Wafer paper sticks to wafer paper really well with just a little water. So I just brush on a little water and place the pieces on. It's hard to believe that this paper is edible. Looks like tissue paper. At the moment, the white isn't looking very drippy. So I'm just gonna go in with my scissors and cut in a wavy pattern. I'm giving this cake a haircut. The bottom tier is iced in its buttercream. Now I just have to ice the other 2 tiers in yellow buttercream and blue buttercream. Now that my tiered cake is covered in buttercream, we can really decorate this cake. Something in cake decorating that is very common is
Borders.
There's all kinds of borders, but the border I want to make is the shell border. And I have an idea of how to recreate it in paper. And I really want to try it, so let's do it. Here I have a 1-inch hole punch and some green wafer paper, and it cuts very well. Look at that, perfect circle. Now I just got to cut out a bunch of circles. I'm gonna need a lot. I'm cutting a quick snip halfway through the circle. Now I'm piecing the 2 circles together, folding it a little bit, and I think that looks really good. It looks like a shell border. Well, it looks like a paper version of a shell border. Ooh, I really like it. I can just place them onto the cake with a little bit of water. Seeing them all layered up like that really looks like a shell border to me. This is so fun. I love this. What a fun detail. What's another common technique to decorate a cake?
Swag.
Let's add swag to that yellow tier. In cake decorating, swag is a detail on a cake that looks like draped fabric. It is old school. It's been around forever. It's like if you put curtains on a cake. And because this is supposed to be a piñata, decorated in paper, I'm not gonna get too crazy with it. I'm going to make the swag very simple. A simple swag. I'm left with a ton of wafer paper scraps. I wonder if there's something I can do with these. I can make like multicolored sprinkles. What a great way to use the scraps. All right, this cake's looking like a party. To make the sprinkles, I'm gonna hand cut rectangles. Now, while I think these rectangles look pretty good, they need something. I think of that rectangle shape, but with like soft edges. And I just so happen to have this rounded corner cutter. See, when I put a piece of paper in there, it cuts the corner off and it rounds it. Oh, that's exactly what I imagined a paper sprinkle to look like. This is perfect. Now I'm placing the sprinkles only on the white drippy areas. I think that's where they belong. The colors will really pop against that white. Now what else goes on a cake? Let's add some candles. I printed out different colored stripe patterns on edible paper. Now I just gotta cut them out. This cake is really starting to come together, and I am really starting to get nervous because I'm gonna hang it from a tree soon. My hopes are high for this. I want this to work. To To attach the candles to the cake, I'm gonna use Pocky. If I tried to use water to attach the candles to the cake, I feel like they'd all just kind of flop over. But the Pocky is going to support the candles perfectly. This cake is starting to look very decorated. I don't want to overdo it, but I want to add one more thing. Just need something. Are you guys familiar with the Cake Gang? Gang is a bunch of cakes that I made that are really popular and they're also characters. So Piñata cake. Piñata cake's part of the Cake Gang now because Piñata cake has a face. I just think it's gonna look so cute. And piñatas always have like these faces. They use stickers, they put some eyes on there, you know, it totally works. So I'm adding the edible sticker face. And personally, I think this cake needed it. Let me know what you think. And the final detail, it's the fill here sticker. It's finally time. Let's take this cake outside. I found the perfect tree. Now I just gotta lasso my rope around the branch. I thought I would have a hard time with this, and I am. Wrong branch. All right, I finally got it. Now that I have this rope around the tree branch, I feel like maybe I should have gotten a thicker rope. I'm a little nervous. After carrying this cake around, my guess is that it weighs about 40 pounds. I don't want to eat cake off the ground. I'm about to tie a rope to a cake and hang it from a tree branch. I hope this is strong enough. Should have gotten the thicker one. All right. It totally worked! My piñata cake is hanging from a tree. I can't believe it. Oh, just look at that cutie pie. What do you guys think? Does it look like a real piñata? When I was just about to hang the cake, a guy walked by and said, from far away, I thought that was a real cake. And then I turned to him and I said, it is a real cake. And then he thought I was kidding. But we're not done yet. It is time to smash the cake. Can't see a thing. This is so much fun. I can't believe how fun it is to smash a cake. If you like this video, and subscribe to my channel. My cakes keep getting crazier and crazier. So subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I'll see you next time for another cake.